the Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Ha, I'm both perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we're learning from Rose Bonica. Now, Rose Bonica is a music producer who also is doing some 3D animation as a side hustle. Like just getting all the acclaim as a music producer, but also making some scratch on the side in, the super chilled, super easy feel of 3D animation. And obviously I'm taking the piss there. So yeah, that's the kind of person that Rose is. Her side gig is something that takes immense amounts of time and concentration and creativity. And so does her main gig these days, which is, music production. So we get into a hell of a lot. This is the third or fourth time we have actually done the interviewee dance through multiple mediums. And yeah, this is the first time she's been on the podcast, and I'm super stoked with her because at this point I think we're both at our best, and I think you'll get that from this podcast what I mean by that. So yeah, super, I don't know, man, super honest chat, super fun chat, super cool chat. It's like, because Rose has had one of those years that, I mean, it's weird because it's both been amazing and it's been very difficult. Like, she's struggled personally and she's struggled creatively, but at the same time, the work that she's put out got an amazing response and has just like catapulted her career way further than like she's been doing the music thing for 4 years essentially. And at this point, she's been on the Bandcamp like song of the month, album of the month, something of the month, something of the year, just mad press all around the world and highly respected things. Lots of people who know what the fuck they're talking about, like, love her work and have been saying, yo, this shit is dope. And that's rare from someone who's been making music for like 4 or 5 years now. Like, and that's what's so fucking cool. It's that she is a bit of a phenom and she's been making so much music and a wide variety of music and releasing it through like different mediums, through EPs and albums. We get into the processes behind those and how that all works. And yeah, we get into so much. Like, it's a really fun chat. So I think you're gonna dig it. But yeah, how you living? This podcast is brought to you by you, which means you can go to patreon.com/almost perfect, or you can buy a mug. Yeah, you can buy a mug from me. There are pictures of it somewhere on the internet. Basically, it's the Almost Perfect logo on a white mug, and they are 100 Rand, and you can just slide in the DMs or hit me up at bob@almostperfect.co.za to buy them. Cool. Yeah, so how are you living? Things have been weird. Who was it? Lil Uzi is it Lil Uzi Vert? Is that the same person? I know I sound old here, but I am in my 30s now. Are Lil Uzi and Lil Uzi Vert the same person? Because someone got a fucking diamond put in their head, and like, I'm not gonna body shame anybody. Like, I'm not here to do that. That is not my goal. But cool, man. Like, that's where we're at. That's like, I'm like, cool. Like, if you can put a diamond in your forehead, what else can you put in your forehead? Can you put a dildo on your forehead? Because that would make like a joke that I heard when I was a kid, like, real. I don't know if you guys ever heard that joke. I mean, I had some fucked up people around me, so like, this was a joke I heard when I was probably like 12. No, I was older. I was probably 15. So it makes it fair for the time. A guy says, what is it? Oh yeah, if you had a dick on your forehead, would you be able to see? And so the person says, I don't know. And you say, no, because your balls would be in your eyes. Like, funny joke. And then you say, well, if you had a vagina on your forehead, would you be able to see? The guy goes, well, yeah, probably. And that's what the guy goes, no, because you have my balls in your eyes. So yeah, like little Uzi slash Vert. Just I'll edit. I'll edit later. The problem is I say that, but I'm not going to. I mean, I am going to edit. I'm just not going to edit that part out or this part out because why would I do that? But yeah, so we're at that part of body modifications, and like stunting with body modifications is brave. Like he literally has to for the rest of his life have bodyguards. And if he doesn't, they're going to just take the diamond from his. Like, if he can't afford to pay his bodyguards, like, if he eventually, like, gets so broke that he can't afford to pay the people there to protect him from getting mugged from the diamond in his fucking forehead, then they're going to be the ones who mug him. So, he's going to make sure he's successful forever. And I guess that's manifesting things. I guess that is a way to manifest like your destiny. I don't fucking know. Me personally, I feel like Nick Swardston in Grandma's Boy. Because as some of you may know, I've been living with my gran for the last month and a bit now. My grandfather passed away on New Year's Eve. And even before that, I was kind of staying here anyway. Like I was staying between here and my place because my grandfather had cancer. So I was helping out with certain things. Because also, yeah, my gran got hit by a car. Yo, it's been a long year. Let's just leave it at that. But at this point, yeah, I kind of feel a little like Nick Swardston and Grandma's Boy because I'm living at my grand's place, making this little podcast on my computer, and I'm just waiting for someone to like, I don't know, steal my scripts, like one of my scripts that I'm working on or something, and then have my grand be like, my grandson has been working on that for the last few days. Um, in reality, but for the imagination, the last few months. But yeah, no, it's been interesting, definitely. I'm just trying to flow like water. uh, yeah, that's how I'm gonna phrase things. But yeah, it's been interesting. I should probably take more notes. I might one day be able to use this for material, but at the moment it's more just okay, so this is my reality now. And just trying to deal with that. Yeah, because it's also like shit, things have just been weird in general. Like a lot of death lately. As some of you know, like a friend of mine passed away. He was on the last podcast. You can just see that Nas Hussein. So there's that, and then my grandfather, and just in general, yeah, things have been a lot to deal with. But I've been trying to keep my head down. I've just been trying to focus on creative things, and yeah, I've been writing scripts again, and I've been I just trying to plan out the vibe for this project, for this thing, the almost perfect podcast, and make it work. And I know I'm eventually gonna have to go to therapy. So if you want to fund that, you can go to patreon.com/ fuck my life. No. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, man, you just gotta keep going. You just gotta keep doing the things. We move, as they say on the internet, as I've seen on Twitter once or twice, here and there, every now and again. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I am just trying to stay focused and also just try and remember certain aspects of certain people's lives and, things that they've told me, and focus on those things and just try to move forward. And even if it is without them, unfortunately, you got to carry the legacy forward, man. And like, we do live on through the people who live on without us. Like, that is the truth of the matter. Like, I know it's ideological, I know it's a bit of a fantasy in some ways, but it's also very real and very true in that, like, when you die, your impact that you had on people remains. I mean, that's something I'm learning as I carry on living, I guess. And I guess the egotistical thing to do would be to try and like have more of an impact. But realistically, at the moment, it's more just like to try and rather just do the things that have been scaring me and seeing where it goes. Because, like, where's the harm in trying? So, yeah, that's where I'm at. And I hope I have suitably born, ban, ball, bared, born my soul. I hope I have suitably born my soul before I pitch the Patreon to you once again. There is a tier over on patreon.com/almost perfect called the titular titles tier. Now, this is a $10 tier, and it means that you can become a part of the cast and crew of this podcast. You're the reason why I say we instead of I, although sometimes I still say I. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Some of us are doing the heavy lifting here. Others, are putting in the capital. So, welcome to the fucking world we live in. Anyway, shout outs to the team over at the titular titles tier. They are the chief sales officer of Satsa Heresies in the greater Oberberg region, Rousseau. They are also King Julian. They are also His Excellency President for Life Field Marshal Stephen Oliphia, VC, DSO, MC, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the seas, and conqueror of the British Empire and Africa in general, and certain parts of KwaZulu-Natal in particular. Or something slightly less pretentious, like executive producer. You see, you give me $10 a month, you get to make me say whatever you want. Kind of. Like, I'm not gonna leave it that open, but within, I won't even say within reason. I'm not even going to say within reason, but within taste parameters. Also, shout out to Vishendra Naidu, who is my spiritual advisor. Shout out lastly to Tyron Love, who is the pantsless weasel. Yes, the pantsless weasel. He gets loved last, or he gets shouted out last. Yeah, that's right. The pantsless weasel gets shouted out last. Now, if you are a patron, whether you're at the $10 tier, the $5 tier, the $1 tier, whether you are here in South Africa or you are overseas, depending on the South African post office and your local post office, you should be getting some stickers soon. I sent out like a whole bunch of envelopes. I bought, I don't know how many stamps, 40 stamps, and I'm like 30 stamps down because some of you needed like 3 stamps, some of you needed 2 stamps, just to get a whole pack of stickers. I sent you all a bunch of stickers, so they are all currently in transit, and hopefully the relevant post offices, I think we know which one in particular I'm talking about here, needs to step up the game a bit. But I hope they all deliver those stickers to you. If not, within like the next 3 months or so, let me know. I'll send some more out. And yeah, the only way to get stickers at the moment is to be a patron over at patreon.com/almost perfect, or to see an almost perfect sticker out in the wild, take a photo of it and tag the almost perfect social medias over on whichever social media platform you prefer to use. Cool, that's been a long as fucking intro. It's been a weird as fucking intro, and I don't think it's going to get any less weird, because here comes the Almost Perfect podcast with Rose Bonica. So how are you living, Rose?
Hi Bob. I'm good. I'm really well, actually. Things are going much better than 2020, I think, emotionally, mentally. But I'm really good. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough, because I was about it, like, I'm glad you put the qualifiers of like emotionally and mentally there, because on the outside it looked like you had an amazing 2020.
Oh no, I mean I did. Obviously, like career wise and success wise, it was amazing. It was so surreal and very overwhelming. But personally, I think just everything, like I made some changes in my life, and the whole lockdown and the pandemic, it all affected me like really emotionally and mentally, and I went through like a quite intense uh, like stage of depression, for like a few months. But I've gotten through it, so I've gotten through the other side, and I'm okay.
Yeah, I think that is relatable to a lot of people, myself
Mm.
included. I have definitely gone through a couple stages where, yeah, like the abyss was just calling, and yeah, we became very, very good friends. But I'm also like, I'm feeling like, I don't know, like I'm actually feeling somewhat creative again, which is feeling
Mm.
cool. Like I've been working on scripts and stuff like that this week. So I'm like, I don't know where anything's going. That's my only problem at the moment. It's like I don't have
I
a
feel that.
plan. It's just like, okay, let's just do some things and maybe eventually like it'll have been something. Like that's my vibe
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
moment.
Yeah, maybe it will pan out. Maybe it will like show itself, But I mean, like when I was listening to the Parable podcast, it was really interesting because it was exactly how I felt. Like we all thought. I think, well, not all. Most of us thought that this time would just be so creative. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of happy that I'm feeling more creative, just like you. Like it feels like something is kind of lifted a little bit, and that's a really good feeling because I've never felt so lost like 2020. Yeah.
But like I was saying, you actually still had like career wise quite a good year. So were the songs that you had for Tears for the Team Maker from before lockdown, or how did that whole process come about when it came to that album?
The last two songs, well, I mean, obviously they're different on the track list, but the last songs that I actually made, they were made just in the beginning of lockdown. Otherwise, everything else was made over like a space of 2 years. So it was just stuff that I'd been sitting on, like even just random sketches that I didn't think would work with any like of the EPs I was releasing. So like my work was already done before 2020 kind of really started. I mean, I don't think I probably have made music in the last year, but I don't think I have.
Yeah, because I saw you actually saying on Twitter that you were dealing with a bit of like a writer's block situation when it came to making music. And that's why I just found that interesting, considering you had just released this album that's been so well received. It's been critically acclaimed, it's made lists like, for Bandcamp and everything. And yet you're sitting at home and you're struggling to write music. So what was that like?
Yeah, so I'm still trying to. Oh, what was it like? I mean, it's been difficult. Like, so I live with my boyfriend, Azza, who's deep Aztec, and he's also a musician, and his music output at the moment is insane, and it's super intimidating as well. So I'm like, I've been like struggling with this, like, shit, I'm not making anything, and there's my boyfriend like making a track a day, like it's nothing, But I think what was weird was after I tweeted that, I went and I made two songs. So it was almost like a release. Like I just kind of let it go, and
Okay.
like the rest of the week actually worked out. So I don't know. Maybe I mean, don't tweet all your inner thoughts, but sometimes it can be like cathartic or a little release. To get over a hurdle.
I mean, it is the modern day diary. So
Yeah. I mean, I was never a kid to keep a diary. I always tried. And
same.
I'd always like I'd open it and I'd be like, "Dear diary," and then I'd write a paragraph, and then I'd never look at it ever again.
I probably have 10 diaries that are exactly 3 pages deep. Like, it's and for me, it's always just this thing of, "Oh, I don't want to put this down because what if somebody reads it?" Yet you go look at my Twitter timeline, and it is just like all these thoughts that you
Stream of
should not be
consciousness.
sharing with anyone.
I mean, that's why I love Twitter because, like, I don't know, I used to not like it, and then I got deep into it, and I was like, oh, it's actually Like it has its funny moments, and then it's really depressing moments, and then it's really shit moments. But it has its use, you know. There is a use to it.
It does. I just wish it could just go back to like pretty much just like promo and jokes. Like if we could just y- like keep
You've
it to
just
that.
described Instagram. You've literally just described Instagram.
But Instagram, you don't get to see like anyone reels like content, you know? So it's just
Yeah.
pointless.
No, I know it's all primed. It's all primed for perfection, you know. Yeah.
Oh man, it's but you've actually managed to do quite well when it comes to like getting like traction on social media and online. And how would you say that you've actually managed to do that? Because I think there has been a bit of a plan when it comes to your press side of things. And well, I mean, I know there's been a plan because I've received a lot of your press releases and I see like all the places that you get put into, and I know that's because you're emailing people, you're actually doing the work behind things. When people are like, how does this happen, it's like, well, what you do is you email 100 websites and maybe five of them will pick you up. Am I
Yeah.
correct there?
Yes and no. Like, so, I mean, in the beginning of my career, that was what exactly what it was until last year. It was just me, just trying to, which is also why Twitter is actually great. Is like I was trying to forge relationships with people in the press, and just people that I know who do really cool newsletters for music, and like speak directly to the actual writers, like the journalists and stuff. Last year was a little different because I pulled some money together with my brother and he helped me pay for PR for my album, which really helped. But what was interesting about that was my personal relationships helped just as much. So like they complemented each other. And that was a really great feeling because I think we all have this guilt about getting PR because it feels like he's selling out or something, like out of the underground and the DIY kind of vibes. But like even like some of the most underground artists use PR, they use DJ mail so it kind of helped with my personal shame and guilt that I had having like the personal relationships as well working out for me. So that was really cool. But in general, like my Instagram is like me, and I've just kind of always posted my music on there and used my visuals and stuff to push it, and it does help, although sometimes they lulls. You need a selfie every now and then, sadly.
Because I was actually thinking that's probably the highlight of, well, what you do differently. Not the highlight, but it's one of the things that highlights you from the crowd is your visuals. It's something that you create as well.
Mm.
What do you use for that? Is it Blender?
Yeah, I think it was 2019. Like I decided, cool, I'm going to challenge myself, and spent like 3 months learning how to use Blender. But before that, it
Okay.
was all just free cell phone apps, like any app that I
Oh
could get my
snap!
hands on. And yeah, I mean, I still do that, because Blender takes weeks. But I still use free cell phone apps as much as I can because it's also great for like putting ideas down and like kind of getting to where you want to go.
That is so fucking cool. Like that's why like
Yeah.
more and more I'm seeing the value in TikTok, even though I like haven't used it, but like I see just the editing that people are doing with that. And I'm just like, that has actually got artistic merit. Like it's whatever tools you use, like doesn't necessarily matter. It's like the end product you get out of those tools. And so
Yeah.
you're literally using these free cell phone things to create these really dope visuals, and I like, yeah, I had no clue. Like I thought it was like properly, professional stuff. That's really cool.
I mean, some of it is like, but it's, like that's not, I mean, the percentage is like, it's 95% just free apps, 5%
Oh
Blender.
wow.
I mean, like, obviously, like, I just released, well, just about a year ago, I released a music video called Mouthful of Concrete, and that was me
Yeah.
learning how to use Blender. So that was 100% Blender. And now, like, the Blender stuff, like learning how to use Blender, has actually helped me pivot a little bit during this very dry gig time. Like, there's no gigs. So now I actually do like 3D animation for people, and so it's actually become like another job.
That's cool. But you've been someone who's adapted quite a lot over the years, haven't you? Because if I remember correctly, you were in tech at some point,
Mhm.
like before the music thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I worked for my dad, and I was a web developer, and I was learning how to code and stuff. That's kind of what sent me into music. So, and I mean, before that, I studied it after for 4 years. So I have an what is it? Oh, it's a master's. No, it's a post. No, master's in editing. Just shows how much I've used the degree. Um,
Which is
uh,
casual. Like, oh yeah, I've got a master's.
yeah, I've got a master's somewhere sitting there. Hardly used it. I think the last editing job, like official editing job I had, was Clifton Shaw's season 2. So
Oh wow.
I
No ways.
swear to
Please tell
God,
me
what
you
a
snuck
time.
some jokes in. Please tell me you snuck some jokes in the
You know,
edit. Like
sadly,
that were
sadly,
just for you.
I was the assistant editor. So the head editor, like he would change like quite a few things, but I mean, I
Oh,
think the hard drive broke, but I did sneak some bad clips. You know, like I did fill the hard drive with like a few funny clips, but that hard drive broke, which is probably the story of my life. So yeah.
and then how? Okay, so you were first you were an editor for film. Why did you stop doing that?
Um. Okay. I had a bad drug addiction during that time. So when I got clean, I kind of left that part of my life a little bit, and just started working for my dad and getting myself together, my shit together, basically. And that made me kind of pivot. I started working for him, like doing videos for his products and stuff, like tutorial videos. And then it turned into like, okay, well, we don't have enough work for you, so you better learn how to code. And I was like, okay, shit, better learn how to code, go into code academy and like Treehouse and stuff, figure out how to use CSS and HTML. And then like, that's how that happened. So yeah.
Did that come naturally to you?
Yeah, I mean, my dad's a software developer, and I grew up basically sitting on his lap, like all of us did, like me and my brothers, just watching him code throughout the night. Uh, like I remember when I was like 7 or 8, he gave me an email address, and I remember being so confused as to what to do with this email address. But I knew how to dial up, and I knew how to open my email, but I just didn't know who to get emails from because I was 8 years old. Uh, so like I've been around like technology my whole life and computers and stuff. There's always like a joke, like, if I didn't know how to dial up to the internet, my dad would have smacked me, although he didn't ever smack me. So, it's just a joke.
Just a joke.
Sorry.
Yeah,
It's
sometimes
just a
people don't
joke.
mean it when they say things. It's meant for
Yes,
comedic effect.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, all my brothers are also in technology. They're also in like web stuff. My middle brother's like a web developer. My oldest brother is a designer, and a racing driver, funny enough. So,
Yeah, I know that.
it's
And I was gonna
like,
actually ask, like, how's that? Like, do you ever watch them and are you ever like a little worried?
oh yeah, I don't think I'd be able to handle watching him race like in real life. Even like when I watch it on YouTube and stuff, I get so nervous and I freak out.
I
But
can
like he's a
imagine.
huge inspiration. He's a huge inspiration for me, and because he's worked so hard to achieve his goals.
Yeah, it's hard
I
to
mean,
do
he's
it
one
from
of
South
the
Africa.
Yeah, and like he took a break from it before his 30s, like between 25 and 30. I might have the ages wrong, but
Oh
it's fine.
wow.
He took a break from racing and then started his own business with my other brother, Mark, and like their business was really successful. And then just before he was 30, he was like, fuck this. I actually want to be a racing driver. And he emailed like a bunch of teams in GT3, and he got a drive, and that was the end of it. Moved to England and became a full-time racer.
I can see how that would be inspiring.
Yeah. So that's also where I learned like a lot of like there's the glitz and the glam in little inverted commas. And then there's like the back end of shit, you know, where you've got to email people and you've got to cold call whoever you can to kind of get your stuff out there. And like he was one of the people that taught me that, you know. He was actually the reason why the other day I was asking you about podcasts because he was
Oh,
adamant
is
that I
it?
had to start a podcast. Yeah. I was like,
Oh, it's
David,
a
I don't know what to speak about. I can't just start a podcast.
It's definitely a great platform. I mean, I'm kind of cheating with the whole podcast thing because I just get other people to do half the work. Well, actually, three quarters
But
of the
that's
work,
the
you know?
vibe, though. I think that's amazing. I like that's why I listen to podcasts. Like I either listen to murder history podcasts or interviews. You know, like that to me is like a perfect podcast formula. They must just intertwine a
Yeah,
little
no,
bit. Mystery murderers.
that's why I do it, is because that's what I love. Like, I'm just
Yeah,
like totally I listen to WTF with Mark Maron a ton, and that's like my quintessential go-to podcast. But in general, if like you're interviewing someone who I think is cool or someone who sounds interesting, yeah, I'm gonna give it a listen. And then that was the whole thing for this, was just seeing that there's so many people, and it's like it's the new format, you know. Like I did the whole
mhm.
interviewing people with the written word, and like that's cool, and it's like something I still enjoy because you get to give it your own, a lot more of your own spin. But at the same time, this is so much more honest because this actually allows
Yeah,
people to truly speak for themselves. Whereas when you're writing an article about someone, there's so much editing that goes on in choosing which sentences, you know, are the ones you say get said. Whereas here it's like, here you go, here's what they said. And I think that
exactly.
allows
Listen to them fuck up. I'm joking. I'm sorry. I mean, I feel like I might even fuck up in written interviews. So, you know, it's like it's just a thing.
Yeah, written interviews are an interesting thing because it's like you're literally choosing the words that are going to get printed, like, and you have time to think about it. So it's like if you fuck up with those, like you're really like killing yourself because it's, at least here, it's like if you say something wrong, it's like a slip of the tongue, or you know,
Mm.
it's understandable. But like when someone sends you questions and you had 3 days to think about it, and you still say something like controversial or, you know, untoward or just whack, like you kind of deserve the hate that you get then.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, exactly. You've had time to think about it. It's just unnecessary. Unless you know, it just means that you're just trying to be a controversial person at the end of the day,
Yeah,
and you have
there
bad
is
views.
always that. But how do you
Mm.
approach the whole press thing, or how are you feeling about the whole like press side of making music? Because it is something you've done quite a lot of, like more so than I'd say most people who have been making music for like 4 years. So I think, and I genuinely do think it's something that's helped you get ahead and get to where
Oh
you are in
yeah.
terms of things, is because you have been so open to doing all of this work when it comes to the press. But how do you actually, you know, personally feel about it?
I mean, I understand the necessity of it, and how do I feel about it? I
Just giving a lot
understand
of
its like
yourself.
its use. Yeah, and I mean, to me, like I enjoy being honest, and it does like give me a platform to speak when I wouldn't necessarily like speak up and air my thoughts. You know, I like to be provoked to do it. You know, like I like to be asked questions so that I can talk. Obviously it's different if like I know you and we're chilling at home, but like in the public eye, you know. So I do find it nice like to be able to kind of show people who I am. Obviously there's moments where that doesn't happen and things get twisted and stuff. But I mean, not for me that many, you know, like not for me, like it hasn't happened that much. More that happens more when I get music reviews and like people, you know, put me under a genre or something. But in general, I kind
I
of
mean,
like
your
this.
music
Like,
is hard to
uh,
define. Like,
yeah, but it's not tech house. I mean,
fair enough,
like
fair enough.
yeah, that was my last and worst review, not from my album, but from my EP before that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe you think I'm tech house, but I genuinely like press, but I do like conversation. So I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, all my press was really cool last year, but I didn't actually get to sit down with someone and just chat. I think I had one radio interview, and it was such a good feeling. Also, because we were locked up in our houses,
Yeah.
and releasing music during a lockdown is a really insane feeling because you don't have that outside gratification that you used to. Like whenever I used to release music, I would go out the same night, even if no one like came up to me and said, "Hey, great music," it was just like about being out and like getting a bit of perspective outside of the stress of releasing your music. And
Not
obviously that was
just
different
like
last
scrolling
year.
all day, busy trying to get the likes and
Exactly. Not just
seeing
promoting
who's
it,
said what. And yeah.
not just screaming to yourself, "I'm just trying to sell my soul." But I mean, so the one radio interview that I did last year was really amazing, and I remember having like this like 3 hour buzz afterwards. It was a 20-minute interview with someone who couldn't really speak English. He was French, and it was still like this really amazing interview. And afterwards, I was beaming. Like it was so amazing. It was such a good feeling. Yeah, I don't know. It's all at the end of the day, it's all to do with ego, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned you need an ego in music. Otherwise, you're just going to get crushed and destroyed. So I think it's an essential tool.
But do you not feel like you might have come into music with a little bit of an ego? Because I remember our first interview a good couple of years ago, and like I didn't put it in the interview, but you told me that you found music to be pretty easy to make. So
I'm sure I had
four
an
years
ego.
later, 4 years later, I know you feel differently, but surely you came in with a little bit of an ego there.
Oh yeah, of course. Like I would never have been able to get through the last 4 years if I didn't have an ego. Like, and what's so funny is I look back and I cringe. I'm like, shit, like I had so much confidence and like so much faith in myself. like like when I started, I couldn't believe it. Like I was looking back the other day and I actually got so embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, I was so full of myself. I'm probably
Oh,
still full of myself,
you're describing my comedy career. Like that is how I feel about it. Like
Yeah, dude. And I
like
think it
now
was
I'm
like the
so insecure
naivety
about
as
it,
well,
all of it. Like now I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, like I don't know if I can do this. Like whereas, 5 years ago, I was like, yeah, I'm the best at this shit. Like, and
Exactly.
it's
Because
so crazy how that happens.
and I think it's because like we don't know, you don't know any better. And also, I wasn't that young, but like I just I was in a space at that time that where like I needed something to prove my identity and to like prove to myself that I was creative or I was this. And I think that's what that was.
Okay.
Um, Now I wouldn't say music's easy. I mean, it might have also come off wrong in that interview. I remember being so nervous in that interview with you. Like, I was freaking out before you called
Oh,
me.
this is a completely different experience. You are like way more comfortable, and so am I. I think I was also not used to the whole Skype interview thing back then.
Yeah. And I was always scared of being caught out because I didn't know anything about music, like at all. I'm still learning, like every day, like how little I know and how much I still need to learn. Yeah, and I was also a lot more controversial, I would say. Well, at least I was trying to be a lot more controversial. I was trying to put up a persona of like, I'm punk and I'm this.
But
I
doesn't
think
that
that's
just get
changed.
tiring?
Oh, it was exhausting. Also, when I realized I'm actually like a nice person, at least I think so. Um, but like when I realized like I can be kind and I'm not such a bitch and I do like letting people in, I realized like that was actually really tiring keeping it up. But I honestly believe that
Yeah.
that's who I was. I honestly believed I was an introvert and I didn't want people near me and all of that. But I wasn't. So
I mean, is it not possible that you were just for that time, or was it just complete misfit? Because I like, yeah, like I feel that was definitely a defense mechanism for me as well. Like
Mm.
in some cases, like I'm like one of my taglines is like misanthropic in the subtropics because it's like I do kind of hate people, you know, like I do like people in general frustrate me, but then it's also like I love people, like the people that I hang out with all the time. They're like I love
Yeah.
them dearly, and I think like they're rad as fuck, and like I just want to share them and just like tell the whole world about them. So it's like this weird dichotomy of like I don't know how to balance my frustration with the world with like yeah my love of like people in some cases. So I'm sure like for you there was a part of it that was real. Like yes, you're accentuating it, and it's not the best thing, but there is this part of the world that kind of sucks and like grates on my nerves, you know?
Oh yeah, like I have no patience for that part of the world. Such idiots, you know. I don't have a lot of patience for people. So I mean, it definitely is real, but it's not as, like you said, accentuated as I felt it was at that time. I think it also had to do with like who I was and who I was around, and I was trying to kind of protect myself and them from other people. You know, the defense, the walls that I built weren't just for me; it was for other people around me. I mean, that's changed a lot. So I think that those walls have now come down, and I've realized, like, oh shit, okay, that's what I was doing. Okay, okay. So
So you
yeah,
don't have to be as defensive about things. Like you can still
mm,
feel some type of way about things, but not necessarily get into your well, you know, fuck this mode.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I also, what do they say? Live and let live. Is that the saying?
Well, live and let live and live and let die. Yeah. The what is live and let die again? That was a movie. I can't remember. Was that like a
Yeah,
James
I think
Bond
so.
movie?
I think so.
Yeah.
It sounds like a James Bond title. I can see the guns in the title of the 007. Um, you know what's really helped actually? It's also I have this amazing relationship with Ange where I can vent a lot of stuff to her. Like if anyone got hold of our WhatsApp conversation, it would be the end of us. And that's also really helped. Like I've learned to create relationships with people where I can be myself and be honest, and it lets go a lot of the frustration and the lack of patience I have for people, you know. So I think it's also like who you surround yourself with is super important. And you learn as you get older.
How has that had an effect on your creativity and your creative process and your music? Has it had an effect? Have you found like it's changed your sound, like your newer music sounds a bit different, or yeah, where you at with that?
Yes and no. I mean, so I like, I think that's also why I haven't made music lately, is because I'm stuck in between this place of like, do I want to make hard music or do I want to make gentle music? I'm obviously not feeling as frustrated as I used to feel. And like, I don't feel like I have to prove myself as much, which is a very weird feeling to get used to because that kind of used to be one of my driving forces to make music. So now I'm trying to find the balance. And I think that's what slowed down my creativity a bit because I'm just trying to figure out where I want to go and what I want to express. I keep naming my projects like I have no words left or nothing or like
I
no, just
remember
to give
one
you
of
an
them being
insight.
like "Take My Scraps" or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that was like literally just songs that I was sitting on and then that like well afterwards they worked together, but before I was like shit, I need to release music. I need to stay relevant. I also just need to let go of stuff. And you know what? That thing that like the scraps thing that I did, it was actually what got me onto Bandcamp for like onto a Bandcamp best of list for the first time ever.
Yeah, that was in 2019. Hey,
Yeah, and like that was insane because it was literally just a throwaway song. And I was like, shit, sometimes it really helps just letting go, you know? It was also like a nice break for me to release my own music instead of putting it on a label. Obviously, this was before I started my own label. So it was like a whole project for me, like to see if I can release something on my own and just throw it out there and if anyone will buy it. And it worked, surprisingly. I also uploaded the wrong song that made it onto the best of Bandcamp list. It's
Oh
like the
wow.
totally wrong song. And I only realized 6 months later, I think.
What do you
So
mean?
like
So you
people
just you upload it and you don't listen?
I so I had one, I mean, that track I had like multiple versions of. And then one night I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to flip the whole thing. And I changed the whole track, but I kept the same file name. And what I did with the scrap series was I upload the MP3s to SoundCloud so that it maybe will drive people to go to Bandcamp to buy the WAVs or the FLAC or whatever. And the MP3 of the new song was named the same as the old song, which was the WAV, which is what I uploaded to Bandcamp. And people kept playing, like tagging me in their radio shows, like playing this track. And I kept like scrubbing through their shows and I could never hear the song until like a few months later, I was like, oh shit, I uploaded the wrong version. Like this is not the right the right version. Which
And
also,
people are playing it on radio. That is amazing.
yeah, and I had no idea. Like I kept thinking, I kept saying to Az, like, where is my track? Can you hear it? I can't hear it anywhere. And then it turned out to be the wrong version. And what was so amazing about that was it helped me like realize like sometimes the first version or the 100th version is better than the 100 and like first version. Like you don't have to be perfect, I guess. But yeah, what a fuck up.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you is how do you actually decide what songs go into what projects? Because you said Tears for the Teamaker took 2 years to put together, but I know you released EPs in between that.
Yeah.
So how do you decide, oh, this is going to go on an EP, this is going to go on the album? What's your process behind that?
I think like for for my first album, I really wanted it to be like a body of work. And at the time, well, at the time, over those 2 years, I always looked at an album being like more musical, less electronic in a sense. So my EPs, even though like there was a lot of work put into them, they just felt more like to me like dance floor tracks. Whereas the
Okay.
album felt more like a body of work and like me kind of just bearing my soul to people a little bit more and trying different things. I mean, my EP before the album was kind of like the hit song from that Mouthful of Concrete. That was made like one night when I was like, fuck techno, fuck modular. I'm gonna make a song just like they love, like like a song that they love and they'll play. And it was like a rip-off track. And I remember playing it in the
Fuck
car to
yeah.
Azza, and he was like, dude, this is a banger. I'm like, no, this is a lol track. Like it's a fuck you track. And it's like one of my best tracks I've ever made. But I mean that's like generally like, yeah. But I mean my first two EPs were so long they could have been albums. But I mean I still had
Yeah.
no idea what I was doing, so
So this is why you're now starting to have more doubts because now
yes,
you know more what you're doing. It's a bit more of
exactly.
like
And now you've got to like
considered.
follow a path kind of thing. And like, it's like, oh, is this now what people expect of me? Is this what I've got to stick in? Like, like this lane that I've got to stay in? Like, am I not allowed to go a little bit
Well,
off
what
the
path do
track?
you see that being for you?
Well, I don't know. Like you said, no one can really put my music down into a genre, so I don't know. I'm hoping that it'll always be like that, but that I'll always have people that like to listen to whatever I make. But I mean, my next EP, I definitely want it to be like just dance floor bangers. I'm over being
Okay.
serious for a bit.
Because, well, I mean, that's the thing. I find your music to be incredibly emotional.
Yeah,
Like, and for electronic music to actually get that across is rare. But I, weirdly enough, think of it like in terms of classical music. Like, sometimes. Like it definitely gives me that kind of like feeling in terms of the way like classical like is just emotive. Like you can feel it, you can hear it, you know what's going on in the song without them telling you what's going on, without it being like super
like in
clear.
your face.
But how
Yeah.
do you go about doing that? Like when you're actually making music, how do you How do you do that?
I wish
Like,
I knew.
to me, that's
If
fucking magic.
I wish I knew, because then maybe I wouldn't be stuck in this like creative block. I think it
Okay,
just
fair enough.
it does just happen though. Like I don't know. I don't know. I always used to say like I cry on the keyboard, but I don't always cry, so it can't be my tears.
But so for you, it is like a thing of a feeling. Like
Mm,
you are creating based on how you feel.
yeah. I mean, my favorite track from the album is literally like, maybe it's lame, but this chick kept calling me and telling me that I have to drive these bags, these like leather bags that she left at our house to town at like midnight. And I ended up making this song called Your Mother Never Taught You Manners, because she was just such a bitch on the phone. And I remember like in between the voice notes, like I just picked up the microphone and I was like, you don't always have to be so rude. So like I think a lot of the songs are just made in kind of like ridiculous moments like that. Or
Oh my god, that is amazing.
yeah, I haven't spoken to her ever since, so
That is honestly like, in terms of process, one of the coolest like stories I think I've fucking heard. Like
thank you.
literally just letting venting your frustration with like some random person and making it into a song that's like eventually like someone else is going to like listen to and like be like, wow, that really fucking hits home.
Exactly. I know that some people thought it was about them. I'm like, it's not about you. It's about this random chick, bruh. Like, relax. Relax. Yeah, that was a good like production moment though. I won't lie. I was really stoked afterwards. Like a week later, I listened back to it. I was like, oh my god, this is actually a song? Like, this is actually working? Yeah.
I know you've said you've been struggling to make music, but would you say creating in general comes naturally to you? Because it seems like if you're not making music, you're still making, videos with Blender or free cell phone apps and seem to always be doing something. So, yeah, are you a naturally creative person?
Yeah. So my mother comes from a family of artists. She's an amazing artist herself. She's always pushed me to, paint or draw or like do anything like throughout my whole life, like do anything like super creative, like anything that I can get my hands on. She would always like push for. I'm actually super grateful because my mother, like she understands me on that like level, and she can see things that other people can't in like an art sense.
Sure.
So like I've got this kind of perfect split with my mother's creativity and then my dad's technical side.
It sounds pretty useful in electronic music and
Yeah.
both,
Which is
and also
probably
in
why I
terms
was
of
like, oh,
3D
music's
animation.
easy. Music's easy, babes. Fuck, I'm such a dickhead. Um, but yeah, no. So I mean, even though I work for my dad, my mother's always like, oh, Nat, don't worry, you don't have, just like keep doing like whatever you can do creatively. Da, da, da. So it's a
That's
really
really nice
nice,
and
yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, my dad's just as supportive, but obviously he's worried more about like my future. I mean, I'm 30 now, and there was always this kind of thing in our family like, once you're 30, you've really got to take life seriously. I think that is a general life thing that's kind of drilled into people.
Yeah.
You've got to start thinking about family and like how you're going to survive. which
Yeah.
actually happens, hey? Like it happens almost overnight. As soon as I turned 30, like my brain just like changed into this like, oh my word, what am I going to do in 10 years time if I don't even own a house? Like this like stupid anxiety about like life things. Yeah.
For me, it's almost like I feel like if I own a house in 10 years, I would have like given up. So I don't know,
You would have
like
given up on owning a house?
no, no, no. Like I would have
Sorry.
given up on just like my dreams. Like if I own a house, like then I would have given up on like,
Yeah.
because like, but the weird thing is, I say that, but like I've been in Durban pretty much my whole life. So like at some point, I've actually got to do the thing or just buy a fucking house, you know?
Yeah, dude, yeah, you like me. Like I still live in Hout Bay, you know, like I grew up here, um, and I don't know if I'll ever leave.
No, like I do know that I'll leave. I am saving. I am working towards it. I don't know when it's going to happen,
Yeah.
but eventually the pile of money that I have will be enough money, and then I'll go somewhere. Where I go, I don't know, but it's one of those things where I need to know if it's Durban or if it's me. You know?
Yes, yes. No, 100%. I totally get that. I think that's a really good way to say it, actually. You need to know if it's Durban or if it's you. I need to know if it's Hout Bay or if it's me.
I don't know, you're doing pretty well for yourself though from Hout Bay. That's what's so cool about your career. It's like especially this last year and like it's that's why I was asking earlier,
Mm.
like what is that like? Like seeing your career take off whilst you're stuck at home and you can't like you're struggling to make music and meanwhile everyone's busy praising you online.
I mean, yeah, it's I mean like you've said it like a few times now. You're like, but everything looks so good from the outside, or like it's been really great. And it has. That's the thing, it really has. And in a way, I'm kind of like achieving my dream of being able to stay in Hout Bay. Because I mean, I love Cape Town. I've never understood people who just want to up and leave. I do understand the money side of it and the difference in how much you can earn overseas. But I also believe like if you can do it from here and be flown there, like that's tight. Like, and that's
Yeah.
kind of my goal. Like, you know, to be able to live in Hout Bay with my cats and travel every now and then for gigs and do work over the internet, you know, like that's kind of just who I am. Like I've never had ambition to like traveling has never been like the thing on top of my list. I've always thought the internet connected us all. Maybe it's very idealistic, but like I kind of thrive for that idea of like you can be at home and you can do whatever you want online. I don't know if that
I'm
answers the
so with
question.
you there. No, but like I feel you on that, but at the same time, I also feel guilty about it a little bit sometimes because, like, as a comedian, and like there is a part of me that's like, it's not traveling, it's touring. Like, I want to tour, you know, like
Mm.
I love that
Yes,
idea, and I love
yeah.
doing that. Like, I don't care about traveling for shit. Like, I really couldn't give a fuck. Like, I hate like saying that, and people are like, traveling teaches you all these things, and it's like traveling teaches me that like shit takes fucking forever if I don't know the fucking language. Like
Yeah, or
it's
like
and
I don't
I'm
even know
gonna get
where like
hustled.
yeah, or like where am I gonna buy ciggies, bruh? Like I've got to now like figure it out. But like I get mad anxiety when I travel as well. So like it's just not an enjoyable thing. But I do agree, like touring, like that is really attractive to me. Like that is something I definitely want to do. I have a friend who like she's been traveling since she was like 18, 19, and she's always like, oh, but Nat, like should go like go overseas and experience this and that. I'm like, yeah, I'll go overseas if I'm paid to go overseas, but I'm not. I don't want to go on holiday. Like it's just not who I am. I don't understand.
Yeah, it feels weird to like that's also the thing. And like what I love about doing comedy is like I cannot understand the concept of going somewhere and just being on holiday. No, I'm gonna get do gigs.
Yes,
Like
exactly. I mean, even people who go on holidays, like they, when they're on holiday, they're doing gigs, you know, like even if it's not an official tour, like, and that,
yes,
like,
no, 100%.
like that makes sense to me because I'm like, yeah, why else would you go away? I don't understand.
That's yeah, I'm busy. There's a possibility for me to go visit family overseas at the moment. And like my first thought is just 100% like, okay, what are the closest comedy clubs there?
Yeah.
Like,
Can I gig? Can I gig?
yeah, like you know, whether or not I can gig, I'm gonna be fucking gigging. Like
Yeah,
that is
exactly. I mean, but like,
because
yeah.
there's no point to traveling if you're not going to like take your art there almost, you know, like well that's how it feels as like a yeah, as an artist or like
Oh
me at least
yeah.
as a comedian.
Like even like I mean, me and Az like we haven't gone away in months, you know, like just a weekend away to like whatever, like Pringle Bay, you know, like an hour out of Cape Town. And our reasoning, well, I'm always like, oh, but the cats, but and to like entice me into the idea. He's like, well, we'll go and we'll make music. You know, like it's a music getaway, like, because he understands, like, that's how I think. So yeah, this whole traveling thing
That's
is
I do wonder what people actually do, like, because you like, so you go look at the stuff, like that's the thing, hey,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it,
No,
like.
that's it. Yeah. You drink, I guess. I don't know. You go to the beach, which is like my worst nightmare is the beach. You know, if you go to a sandy place. When I went to Berlin, I kept getting invited to a lake, and I was like, what the fuck? I don't want to go to a fucking lake. Are you kidding? Like, look at me. I'm as pale as like a sheet. Like, come on. Why would I want to go sit in the sun looking at
And
a
we're in
lake?
Berlin, like, can't we just go, like, sit inside, like, a dark, dingy place with weird lighting?
Exactly,
Like, yeah.
exactly. I was like, I don't understand. I think I even phoned my parents, like, they keep wanting to take me to a lake. Like, what the fuck? Oh, that was
Oh,
actually one of
man.
my worst nightmares. I came home early, like I went to Berlin. I had a whole 6 week like trip planned. Well, kind of. Actually, I thought I'd planned it, but I hadn't. Luckily, I got a flexi ticket, you know, like a changeable flight, because on the fourth day, I was so over it and I was so depressed. And I was like questioning music and my life choices and everything that I
The
caught
4th
up.
day of a 6-week trip.
Yes, I came home. And I saved money, to be honest. I saved money. I realized how expensive it was out there, but it was mostly because I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And all my gigs, like, I had my first gig, and then the other gigs kind of fell through. So I was like, there's no reason for me to be in Berlin. And I came home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's also ballsy to just do that, you know? Like, some people would actually just be like, "Well, let me try to stick it out. Let me, see what happens, try to scrounge something together." But you were just like, "Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm out."
Yeah, I realized, like, very quickly, like, I remembered again. I was like, I don't really travel. Like, this isn't me. I thought I had gigs. Like, after a few like phone calls of me just crying and crying, obviously to as like, I realized I was like, oh, just turn around, go home. Like, it's otherwise you're gonna just feel like this for like weeks, and you won't even make music because you don't have a studio, and I don't know. It was like a difficult decision though, because I was embarrassed. You know, like, what will
I get
people
that.
think? Like, what does it look like I've given up? But like inside, I didn't feel like I'd given up. Like, I just didn't see the point in staying.
That's what's so crazy, but I think that's also, like I was saying, like, a testament to your strength almost, and something that I think maybe even comes through in your music sometimes, like, that thing of, like, that, I don't know, uncertainty and certainty at the same time. Like, you manage to go like, you manage to, like, yeah, occasionally put anxiety into your songs, I think. I
I
think
know.
on Tears for the Tear Maker, I can't remember, I think, oh, it was early on, track 2 or 3, it was definitely, like, heavily, like, just making me feel, like,
I think it's
properly
Destitute.
anxious.
I think it's like the last song I made for the album. I think it's Destitute, because I remember sending that to Das Kapital, and he just replied, he's like, shit, dude, that's pretty anxious, eh? Like, thanks. I was like, I'm so sorry. And even me, like, even when I listen to it, I'm like, oh God, I can feel how anxious I was at that point. Meanwhile, it's like a song about like overcoming and like giving someone your all. Meanwhile, like dying of anxiety inside.
How often does that happen? Like, you have an idea for a song going into it, and coming out of it, it's something completely different.
You know, sometimes it's the most of the time, sorry, it's actually the opposite. So, like, a lot of the singing stuff, I mean, most of the album, I don't know what I'm going to sing. Like, sometimes I'll have random
Okay.
things like jotted down in my phone, but generally I don't really know where I'm going. And then I'll find like a loop or a verse or whatever. I mean, I don't really have verses, I don't know. But like, you know, a moment in my rambling. And then that kind of forms the song. And then afterwards, I think that's where I often get lost. I'm like I go through this thing of like not knowing where it's going, knowing where it's going, and then no idea that how I got there or where it was going. You know, maybe that's the uncertainty, you know, and the anxiety in it. I don't know. And then that often leaves me also with like the track names and stuff and the final sound of the track. Like I try and reconnect to how I was feeling, and I try to think of like moments in my life, like at that time, like what I was going
Okay.
through. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
that.
you do seem to have quite a lot of fun with your track names and your album titles.
Yeah, I mean, I always forget track names like of other people's songs. Like I'm really bad at it, so I'm like, oh, no one will remember it. It's fine. This is a very funny sentence. I
But
don't know.
that's exactly what sticks out to people then, and, like, it gives the song extra meaning to, like, them and, like, frames it before they even listen to it. Meanwhile, you were just like, "Ah, whatever. This is just going to
This
mean
is a
something
funny
funny."
sentence. Meanwhile, people like trying to jump like through hoops to understand it. I'm like, yeah. But I mean, a lot of the time it is relevant, like to whatever I'm feeling or whatever. But it can also be so far detached from like the actual song. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, half of it's, like, deliberate and half of it's just like, "Fuck it." Like, it seems like just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, no, you're right. I also find it entertaining. Like, do you know who else does it? Machine Woman. Like, she's really good at
Oh, yeah.
track titles as well. I think
You
it's
worked with her, didn't you?
no, no, not yet.
Oh, I thought I saw your name.
She's actually been like a really great supporter, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Kind of slowly become like a friend. I mean, we've never met in real life, so I'm wary to say friend. I don't want to. I don't want her to turn around and be like, Rose Bonica's not my friend, because I mean, I still kind of look up to her as like I'm a fan.
But you guys in the chat rooms showing feeds, like
Yeah, I mean, like, so she's a sweetheart. She's the best, actually. She's also fucking funny. I speak to her in the DMs. We share a lot of Instagram reels to each other of cats. And
that is the basis of modern friendship,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
think she'll
friendship.
mind.
But yeah, no, she's really great, and her track titles are amazing. I mean, there's one like where it's like, fuck, man, I can't remember because they're so long. Like they're so long. They're these long sentences. Like I went to Salford. I went shopping. And have you ever been to Salford shopping center looking for like an AFAX synth or something? Oh, it's like that's the whole track title. I wish I could remember the actual sentence, but it's so long that it's impossible. There are a few artists that like do that. I think it's funny. It adds a bit, takes a bit of the seriousness off music because music is can be quite dreary and serious. Especially the end, like putting something together. That last 20% is a lot of work, and like you need some fun in it.
What do you mean by that?
That last like 20 to 30% of like putting the album together and stuff, like oh, it's the worst part of music. You've got to like get the promo together and like
Do you get someone else to write your promo, or do you do it, or how does that work for you?
I will well, recently things were different when I was with my previous label. But generally like I'll write down like a brief sentence or like points that describe the music or whatever. And then I'll get like Ange or my friend Rose, like they're really good at writing, so I'll get them to kind of expand on it, and then I'll edit that because
Oh, sick. Okay, cool.
sometimes they can put it into their own voice a little bit too much. I'm like, no, guys, no, no, there's too much grammar in this. What are you doing? So yeah, generally, like I get help from Ange or Rose, also with like my label stuff. Like I've reached out to them more because I just know it's not one of my strong suits. I'm not a very good English speaker or writer.
I don't know, like, I think the people who have listened to this for the last hour might disagree. And I've always enjoyed like your responses in general when it comes to interviews, both written and in person, because I do feel like you're honest. And maybe that might be why you feel like you're not good at it, because you're worried that you're not saying the right things to get people on your side or something like that, like, because that's what I assume a good speaker is is
Yeah,
someone who can manipulate people. But like I prefer personally someone who just tells it how it is. And that's why, like, I think people have also probably been attracted to you beyond just your music. It is a thing of you are honest and you just give yourself both in your music and outside of it. So I don't know. I think there's value there.
Thank you. I do try. I try to be honest, although I can't really help it sometimes. But yeah, no, I agree. Like I'll spend like hours trying to type something and like delete, and it is exactly what you said. Like I don't know if it's like said correctly or whatever. Yeah, the formatting. You can ask Ange. Ange will tell you like how often I say the wrong words. Like it's really terrible, especially in the morning. I need coffee before I can talk to anyone. Yeah.
I Yeah, no, I definitely relate there. Don't worry. Like I need coffee and a joint, and you would think that they, counteract each other, but somehow if I don't have both, like nothing works.
Yeah, it's
So
just like
I
word
don't.
salad, like blah, blah. I've also learned like when I read people's tweets in the morning, it literally jumbles up. I'm like, what are these people saying? And then like I reread it later. I'm like, oh, it was my brain. Okay.
For me, I've just learned not to tweet in the mornings because I'm always angry. Like I wake up angry, like that's just how it is. Like I wake up and I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Everything sucks." And
Yeah.
like it takes me like an hour, before like everything's like, "Okay, the world's not such a bad place." Like these people are just doing their thing
Yeah.
and I get calm. But like if I wake up and I go on Twitter, I have to stop myself. Like I have to stop myself from tweeting, or else I'm just going to like not even like create like a problem. I'm just going to make someone else feel swag and everyone else go like the 400 people that follow me just go, ah, Bob's having one of those days.
But now you still you deleted your other Twitter, right?
Well, it's still there, but like they want me to delete tweets, and like I'm just not gonna do it.
Who's
like,
they? Who
like
wants you to delete tweets?
Twitter, Twitter
What?
wants me to delete tweets
What?
because I was talking about like killing billionaires, and you're
Oh
not
my
allowed to
gosh.
do that. Like for real, like that's one of the things there. Like it's something about guillotines and billionaires, and there were like five different tweets, and I appealed half of them. Well, I appealed all of them, and like half of them they were like, okay, you don't have to take these ones down.
But you
And then
have
they're
to
like, you
take
have to
these
take.
ones.
And I was just like, you know what? I don't care anymore anyway. Like
Yeah.
I'm tired of pushing my brand through things that other people are monetizing. Like if I'm gonna produce content, I'm gonna make the fucking money off of it, like
Fuck, that's very funny. I didn't realize that you actually got suspended. I think that's funny.
yeah, like it's so wild and but yeah, it's also I'm over it. Like I've deactivated my Facebook account and my Instagram is on private, and like I'm probably like never gonna have like an amazing comedy career because no one can ever fucking find me, but
Oh, but they
that's
can. You've got
okay.
you've got your brand, which is like Bob Perfect, almost perfect. I think that's you've got a bunch of podcasts. People will find you.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just about shifting it from what we know. And I don't know, you've utilized Bandcamp fucking well, haven't you? Like, wouldn't you say? Because I
Yeah.
think beyond most people, you've released so much through them, and they've actually pumped you quite a bit as well. So, how the last question? I know you did bring it up, like they put you on back in 2019, but did you send them anything, or how did that actually come about?
Oh, it was actually insane, and I wish I knew who pointed Joe Muggs to me. But it was so funny because I've spent well before then I'd spent like 3 years like gathering different Facebook Bandcamp people and their email addresses, but obviously they didn't know me, and I'd like send them all my releases all the time, like try and make like casual emails, serious emails, like all this shit. And then one day on Twitter, Joe Muggs DM'd me, and he does the best of electronic like roundups like every month. And he DM'd
Yeah.
me and he was like, "Hey, I really like your tracks that you're putting out. Like, I've got my eye on you, and I'm definitely gonna add your latest track to the best of." And that was it. That was like, and I remember I remember phoning Ange actually, and I was like crying. I was like, holy shit. Like, what is happening? Like, how do these things happen? Like, when you think you know the avenue to do it through, and then like something like that, like informal through my Twitter DMs, I don't even reach out to him. He reaches out to me. Like, yeah, it blew me away. I think
Did you not think some of the work you had put in before that like had helped?
definitely, and I think also like I mean, I'm just guessing because I didn't ask Joe, but I do think that it might have been jumping backslash and
Okay.
alternatives who kind of directed him towards me. So yeah, I'm forever grateful to them. Like Gareth, jumping backslash has helped me since I started making music. He's been a cheerleader. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past him that that's how it happened.
I think when it's all said and done, like this last few years of electronic music in South Africa, like a lot of credits gotta go to JBS.
Oh yeah,
Like
he's the
when it's all
biggest
said and done.
cheerleader. Like he's, yeah, no, I mean, I can officially like call him a friend, and that's to me like that's unreal because it's jumping backslash. But like he's a friend, and he's a good friend of mine, and I am very happy that he is in my corner because I would not want him to be on the other side because he does not hold back.
No, people can go back and listen to the conversation him and I had
Oh,
on his
I
podcast.
love
But
that
he's
podcast. I loved it. It was really good.
Yeah, I loved it because it just like it was one of those ones where like I felt out of my depth at times, and like I both love and hate that. Like
Mm.
that and the Charles Blichnotes one in particular were like two where it was just like, oh god, I know so very little.
But I feel like sometimes Gareth can make you feel like that. Like it's also at the pace that he speaks. And
The certainty.
yes, he's very certain. But I mean, he's one of the best storytellers. Like he's stayed over whenever he comes to Cape Town, he sleeps in our cottage. And like the dinner time chats are the best. Like me and Az end up in fucking tears. Like we're laughing so hard. It's yeah. He's really great. He's really great.
uh,
And I mean, like,
uh,
yeah, he puts a lot of people on, which is really amazing. And I think, I hope that that's, where a lot of us will keep going, like that's the direction. Because I think putting each other on is like super important. And I think that's how we'll create an actual industry,
yeah, and
with
he's also
our
created a
scene.
cool model for the whole like staying at home, making music, being in the music industry thing that you want. So like I can definitely see why he would be an inspiration.
Yeah. No, yeah. Tucked away nice, no?
Cool. So I guess I've got to ask you what are your plans for this year, if any?
Whew, oh gosh, Jesus. Um, other than waking up every morning going, what am I going to do today? And crying. Um, um, I'm trying to make an EP, obviously. I'd like to release some music. Lily's Records and Roses Are Red are doing a collab. Uh,
Oh,
we,
sick.
we've got a
You're
split
gonna print
EP.
something.
Yeah, we've got a split 7-inch vinyl coming out.
Amazing.
And we want to do those, like every few months, just to also like, like show that labels can connect in some kind of way and
I
release
mean, it
music
used to be a
together.
it used to be a thing. It used to be a thing.
Yeah, and so that's something really exciting. It's really nice to work with Seventh Gaze slash Lacona. Like he is a dream to work with. So that's something I'm very excited for. And then I don't know. I've, it's very difficult to like to say because in these uncertain times, yeah, that's as far as I've thought. Like the next 2 months, like that's as far as I've gotten with my plans.
I think that is the safest fucking thing to do. Like I was saying to you, my plan is if I can just release a podcast every Friday this year, like I think I would have won. Like
Yeah,
other than that, whatever happens, happens. Like as long as I can, yeah, keep eating, keep a roof above my head. I think same for everyone. We would have made it.
I agree. I mean, survival. If we can just survive and make thrive the second thing, on our list, it's fine. It's okay. You don't have to stress yourself out too much.
Uh, yeah, thank you so fucking much. This has been such a fun chat, such a laid back and informative chat because I think a lot of people are going to, yeah, relate to it in some ways and also learn a few tricks that they might not have known beforehand.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I was very excited when you DM me. I was like, yes, yay, I get to be on Bob Perfect's podcast.
I mean, you must have known you were on the list. Like, you've been
I
on it
had no
for
idea.
ages.
I swear to God, I've learned like not to have many expectations, or you know, like I mean, I have a few like expectations for some things, but like no, like these are nice surprises to have, I think, and I
Okay,
really
fair
enjoy
enough.
them. Yeah.
For me, it's like it's just a timing thing. Like, I've literally got a list of over 300 people at the moment,
No,
and,
exactly,
you
and
know,
that's
I
the
can only
thing.
do about 50 of them a year, so
And that's the other thing I've learned. Like things do happen when they're meant to happen, and yeah, yeah, I was very stoked. I was like, yes, this is perfect, perfect timing, perfect.